Welcome to Undressing Intimacy, where we cut through the bullshit
Greggy,
so we can get naked.
you can't say that.
Why not? How would you say it then?
Well, maybe more like, welcome to Undressing Intimacy, where we undress emotionally so we can undress physically.
That's exactly what I said. Not sure what the problem is. Welcome to episode number
49.
We are creeping up on that year anniversary, and we are thinking about some cool things to do. So stay tuned for episode number 52, which will be actually 1 year of podcasts. We're excited. All right. This topic, it may get interesting. Amy and I had a conversation while we were driving our son down to Abilene for his college, second year of college. And I don't think we came up with any resolutions. And we're going to do it right here, live in front of you.
Yeah, I don't even think it's always about resolutions.
Right. But we kind of got cut short because we got there and then we had to stop and we really didn't get into the meat of it, but it stirred some emotions.
Yeah, should be a good one.
Yeah. So let's see how this goes.
So we're going to bring you along on a live unscripted conversation. And the conversation really started with you mentioning, hey, we've talked a lot about responsive desire on our podcast. We've talked a lot about what it's like to be responsive. We've referred to spontaneous desire. And again, those terms just mean responsive means that you respond when in a sexual context and it takes a while for sexual desire to appear. Spontaneous desire means that sexual desire is present and easily accessible. And so you were mentioning, I don't think that you really understand what it's like to be spontaneous. I said, Greggy, well, tell me.
Yeah, this thought had come up and I wanted to chat with you about it and probably wasn't brave enough to chat about it. It had been a few days that it was just rolling through my mind. And really the difference started when I thought about how natural patterns of arousal happen for spontaneous people, right?
Mhm.
So most spontaneous men, and I know we're categorizing here, but most spontaneous men, they wake up in the morning and they're just naturally aroused. It's not like we go to bed at night and think, I can't wait to wake up in the morning and be aroused so that I can just sit there and be aroused. And so I was trying to explain to Amy, I was trying to say, when you're finally to that point, because you're a responsive desire, so think about that point when you're finally aroused, everything's working, your body's responding, and you're like, I want this.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, think about what would happen if you woke up every morning like that.
Mm-hmm.
How would you handle that? And the interesting thing that I thought, it right away sent her back into I want to fix this problem. Do you remember the question that you asked me when we were there?
I was trying to get to a question, but it was hard to figure out how to ask what I was really wanting to ask.
Do you remember what you were really wanting to ask?
I got closer to it and then we pulled into the college.
What was it?
It was, so yes, you wake up aroused, and in that arousal, how do you then respond? Is it like, this is just an urge and I want to release it, or this arousal is leading me to want to connect and have desire for my spouse? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, maybe in the moment I took this a little too literal, or maybe I was too sensitive about it. But for me, it was like, again, we pinpointed at it that there was something that we had to solve. That it had to be an urge we had to deal with, or we had to put it somewhere or do something with it. And I think to start with, that's the challenge from a sexual desire perspective. We've been taught from a very young age, when we talk about our sexual desires were dangerous and that we had to be careful with them. And it was really confusing as hell, because here we were growing up at a young age. These things came in. We didn't go seeking after our sexual desires. We went to puberty. They came. We had them. They were natural. But yet here we were telling, like, what are you going to do with it? You got to do something about it. Oh, but you can't do this and you can't do that. So you just need to have pure, cleaner thoughts, because you're going to, and then they'll go away. And it's all lies. And so we really messed us up. I'm sorry to tell you that. And so this hit again home. Like, you wake up, what are you going to do with it? Is it an urge? How are you going to get rid of it? And I don't think you were asking the question that way,
No, I
but
was
it
just
came across
wondering,
to me that way.
like, when you feel that, is it something that you have to direct or does it naturally lead you to want to connect? I was trying to understand your
Yeah, I think
experience
that's a much
better.
better way to ask it that you just asked it. And I told you, I started answering it. I think the answer is the same.
What's that?
It depends. And I had a college professor, my very first
Oh,
college
yes.
course, that was critical thinking. It was my very first college course. And he told us we couldn't use the word depends because that was what old people wore when they had incontinency.
Incontinent.
Yeah, whatever. What that word when they had to pee their pants. And it was harder than you thought not to use the word depends when you're doing an argument. And so we found creative ways to get around it. But I think the answer still is true. It is where your mind is at that time.
So there is a mind piece.
Of course, that's what you're gonna. Hopefully, you don't just act out your urges without even thinking about it, right?
Right, right.
And so, as these urges coming, if you're in a needy state, if you've already been struggling, if you maybe reached out to your spouse and they've said not now, maybe later, or they've actually turned you down, or they've ran from you, or whatever that has put you in, and not making excuses about it. But if you're in a needy, chasing state, that arousal that happens that morning is going to be met with neediness,
Hmm.
and it's just going to pile on.
What do you mean pile on?
So here again, if we've got to a state of neediness, it's usually because we haven't controlled our own emotional state, and we've reached out to things to try to control that shouldn't be reached out to control that because we own it ourselves, and it's kind of started that spiral. So we've reached out to our spouses to either help us validate ourselves or help us to control the emotions we have because we're needy, and they can't because they can't control that. And so it just puts pressure and obligation on them. And so they either respond and they do give in out of obligation, and then you feel even worse and it gets worse, or they run away. You're good at putting your tennis shoes on and whoop, whoop, Amy was gone. And now you're thinking there's something terribly wrong with me because she ran away from me. And so it adds to that pile or that spiral. And that's what I see a lot of my clients get into is they're
Wait,
in this
wait.
spiral.
So step back. You added a lot of things in there. So in the morning, you wake up, you're aroused.
Yes.
You said it did pending. I'm like, I can't say this word.
See, you want to use the word.
If you are in a more emotionally regulated state,
Yes.
then that arousal leads you more towards connection.
Right. Because you can
Wait.
reach out for in a non-needy way.
If you are aroused and you are feeling neglected or rejected or maybe not a priority, then that arousal leads to just wanting a release. It leads to what?
There's never not running a release. I think that's a big lie that's been made up. And I got angry at our last retreat, and I'll get angry again when someone said, you just want some place to stick it. Yes, I think in some ways there's the natural man, the animalistic thing that has to release this urge. But again, it goes back to the thing that how we effed it up in the first place when we said there's something that has to be resolved. I don't think in the normal face of a human being, and most men that are good men, they have this urge that they just want released. That's not what they want. They want connection. They want to be together, but they've had this not by choice added onto them that has to be dealt with one way or the other, or it's going to come out sideways. It's kind of emotion. If we pretend this urge doesn't exist and then we disconnect, that's how I got myself into toxic independence, right? We got into toxic independence because then I just pretended the urges weren't there and I dismissed them. And that got me into toxic independence. If we give in to them and we say we want them and reach for them, we either get them out of obligation. If
When
we're
you say
needy,
reach for them, do you mean your spouse?
yeah, reach for your spouse to do it, or even like take care of yourself. I guess can feel like we're taking advantage of something. We're just in a crappy situation because we've been told that these urges have to be taken care of. Like just even you saying that makes my hair stand up in the back of my neck. That I need. Well, what do? You need to take care of that urge. No, you don't need to take care of it. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about being in a state of arousal and deciding how we're going to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that state of arousal itself is causing the actions, but it's adding on to the situation on that when we act, it's almost like now there's a higher risk of something going wrong because that arousal now is there. If that arousal wasn't there and and I had to think about it and go to it and get myself there, then I'd have all the time to prepare myself about how am I doing this? Am I doing this in the right way? Am I trying to connect and reach out? But now it's added an extra component that is high stakes. And I really don't think sexual urges or sexual desires, I don't like the words urges because it sounds like it just has to be dealt with.
Right. And I think from the more responsive desire side, I think there's the same dislike of that, right? If it feels like your spouse is coming towards you just for that like urge, but not because they're wanting to actually connect and be and know you, it's not desirable. If they're coming towards you with that desire to connect, that is far more like, I want to be with you.
I just hope that we might get a little grace.
Yeah. Tell me.
That's all I'm trying to get you into. If you could put yourself in that same place, I think I had to do that with you, right? And your
Yeah.
responsiveness to understand, oh my gosh, what I'm doing to her is really bad. I'm causing PTSD kind of actions by trying to force her to look like me and to respond in a spontaneous way and put myself in those shoes of, hey, this is what it looks like. I don't often think that the responsive desire person puts themselves in the shoes of the spontaneous person and gives them a little grace. And I guess that's for the very beginning of why I was trying to say this. Like, hey, do you know that every morning I wake up aroused
Yes.
and I have to decide how I'm going to deal with that? And I feel like now it's an extra risk, or I think a risk is not the word. I guess I best explained it like if I wasn't, then I could think about all the things I'm going to do to connect with you and if I'm doing this right. But now there's a physical arousal on top of this driving. And also has to be like, okay, I got to decide how I'm going to react to this. And I don't know, I'm having a hard time finding the words because all the words I'm thinking about make it sound like I have to get rid of it.
Mm.
I don't know. I've given up. Help.
So,
Coach me.
no, I'm not here to coach you. I'm here to understand you. And I think so. Every morning we wake up and that is our cuddle time.
Yeah.
And we have this daily ritual where we start our day out together, intentionally holding each other, really kind of attuning. And I am certain that sometimes that, although it is always nice for you and you enjoy it, I'm sure sometimes maybe it's harder than others.
Well, I think the issue, I think the challenge is
Yeah.
that if you're already in an arousal state, so if you were in an arousal state and you were aroused
Yes.
and you reached for me,
Mm-hmm.
would that not lead you to want to continue with that arousal and to receive more?
Yes.
Yeah, so I guess what I'm trying to say, and I'm not doing a very good job out of it, I think the struggle is there's a sense of rejection. There feels like almost a gamble at times that if I'm aroused and I pursue this,
Mm-hmm.
that I may be turned down.
Mm-hmm.
And I just from how the responsive desire happens, I don't think it happens in that pattern. Because there's a lot we've already had to kind of decide we're going to go for this to get you to the arousal place, right?
Right.
But I'm aroused before we decide we're going to go for it.
Right.
So it's always a risk that I'm making a bid. Like this could end up me being rejected.
Yeah. And so what are you hoping that I hear, that responsive desire people hear? What are you trying to share?
I don't know, man. I'm just ranting.
You do kind of sound like you're ranting.
I just want to get it out there. I want some grace. I want some understanding that we're not just these deviant sexual beings that are trying to take advantage of our spouses because we have these urges we can't control.
So what that's what you aren't. Tell me what you are. Like put it in the context of here's what I am, here's what spontaneous desire is. Don't just state what it's not, state what it is.
Well, we're in a relationship where we care and desire the other person.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that desire is the sexual relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're aroused and are in the mood for a sexual relationship, we want to be understood that we're that we're coming to you in this place and that we're making a bid to connect. And maybe just some understanding of, hey, I appreciate that you're coming to me and want to connect.
Yeah.
I'm not making this into something that you can't control and you're just always horny and we have to take care of it. But more of, hey, I appreciate you trying to connect with me. Right now, I cannot connect, or I can't connect to this moment, or I want to, but I don't think I have the time, or whatever it is that's going to not allow you to accept the bid being put in front of you with response, just with some understanding of, hey, I appreciate that you reach out to me.
Right. That you had the courage to take that step, lean in and
I think one of the most interesting thing we
take the
had
risk.
in our retreat a few retreats ago, we had several, maybe not several, but one or two women that were the spontaneous desire.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And when we had we split up between the men and the women and they talked, it was way eye opening for the women.
Yes. To hear a spontaneous, but from the female version, and to hear the feelings of rejection and loneliness and being misunderstood.
And this I'm saying, I would do anything to have my spouse touch me and reach for me.
Mm-hmm.
And here you guys are saying it's the most awful thing that they keep reaching and grabbing for me.
Yeah, I think it helped both sides, responsive and spontaneous, because it wasn't their spouse, see that on either side there's struggle, there's courage, there's wounding. And when you can respond with grace and understanding and even some clarity, like, I do choose you, but this moment, or can we do this tomorrow, or here's where I'm at, just with some kindness instead of judgment.
Yeah. Yeah. If it can be collaboration in both ways and just realizing that the patterns that happen in a spontaneous person arousal are not there because they've set them up to be that way, right?
Right.
They're not there to, you don't go to bed in the morning at night thinking, I can't wait till I'm aroused in the morning. And then I get to make a bid to see if this is, if we're going to be able to connect or not.
Mm-hmm. Do you need me to apologize for something?
No.
Okay.
Why?
Because you were pretty angry at the beginning. I'm like, did something happen that I don't know about?
No, I'm just I'm passionate because I think this is not, I think it's confused. And I don't know if there's a voice out there speaking this.
Mm.
I love Jennifer Finlayson Fife, but in the moments, I feel like she even gets behind those guys out there that just have these sexual urges that need to be met. That they're trying to be controlled. I don't feel like there's ever a reasonable voice of saying this is where these spontaneous desire people are at, and this is the challenges they face in doing it. And yes, we've done it wrong. I've done it absolutely wrong. And I tried to deal with it in the very incorrect way. But it wasn't because I was trying to destroy you or not connect or just be a sexual being that had to have these urges, somewhere to put it, as some would say.
Mm.
It's not that way at all. That's offensive to say.
Yes, it is. It's offensive to hear.
And it's that they say it, right? And I don't know if there's ever a voice out there saying we're trying to do the best that we have from what we've, by the way, we've been taught very wrong from the very beginning.
So, how do you want to be? What message would you teach? And what would you like people to understand in here?
I think the message that we should put out there is that sexual desires aren't evil.
Mhm.
They're not something to be dealt with and put down and controlled and shamed about.
So, what's the opposite of that?
Sexual desires are the thing that builds life, that brings excitement and joy into us, and that
Mhm.
we should be willing to understand that's what they are and be willing to know that we don't want to run rapid. I mean, I think the other side of it drives me nuts when men talk about, oh, well, I'm just a natural man and I need to I need to have sex because that's what I have to have.
Mm.
We're not going to die if we don't have it because there's extreme on that side too, right? We need to understand that it is the ultimate way to connect and bring joy into to life and connection to someone that we love. It's not something to resolve or be scared of, but it's something to say, yes, this is, I have this. And it's just like everything else that can be used for goodness or it can be used for evil, right?
Mhm. So, if you were teaching a young emerging adolescent, what would you want them to know about
Oh,
what's going to happen to them?
I don't even know. Like, I feel like I haven't got it right myself, so I don't know if I can teach anyone else. That's the frustrating part. Like, I wrap my mind around the concept of, hey, these sexual urges and sexual desires are not evil. But there's so much emotional baggage there that oftentimes I don't know if I believe my mind in it,
What
right?
do you mean emotional baggage? How?
Because of the years and years of being told how bad it was and
Mhm.
awful and being told that we're evil. And so I don't even, what would I tell an adolescent? I don't even know. I mean, I think with my own boys, I've kind of been one willing to talk to them about it. So it's not something that's kept in the closet secret and can't be addressed.
Mhm.
And I've hopefully been more open with them so that they can be open with me about what's going on. And that's helpful.
Mhm.
And just not putting shame around it, maybe is the most important thing.
Mhm.
And so what I tell an adolescent is, hey, listen, these sexual desires you have can be the thing that brings the most joy and pleasure to your relationship with your spouse and with
Mhm.
others. And if you can learn to understand your own emotions and deal with those, then it won't attach those to these sexual desires, which is what makes you needy in them.
Mm.
And when it comes in the neediness, that just starts the spiral because you reach out in a needy way. And if that bid comes to a no, then that will spiral you more. And that how important it is for us to understand and to be able to process our emotions. We were told that we shouldn't have them, right?
Mm.
Those emotions that aren't valid, that we needed to be the stalwart ones to save the family and put them on our backs and take care of people. And we're going to march off to war and save the world and all the things around the lack of processing through emotions.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So, every time you mention desire, at some point you bring up emotions. Every time you mention sexual desire, you bring up an emotion.
Yeah.
So, is it an emotional experience for you to be aroused?
Yeah. Hopefully, if you've detached your emotions from your sexual desires, then you're probably going to be a sexual predator at that point
So, I guess
because
I'm
you have no
asking.
emotion around them. So you're just going to go try to drive to an urge resolution. But I think in the normal human being, a good man that's trying to do the right things, yeah.
And the emotional experience for you, that's the one that you're talking about. It can either be very positive and affirming if you're in a more collaborative partnership where you're kind of in that give and take and giving and receiving. But when that partnership is not working well, then the emotional experience of arousal is very negative. Is that what, am I hearing this correctly or correct me?
I don't know if the emotional, I don't know if that's correct or not.
Okay,
I
tell
don't
me.
know. I think, I don't know if they're that closely tied together. Maybe they are. I think that if you aren't secure in where your emotions are and haven't dealt to figure out where you're at emotionally and process through the negative and the positive emotions, but have pushed them down, then and they can come out sideways. This is a very good way of them coming out sideways.
A very good,
Not a good way as in good, but this is a very likely way that they can
oh,
come out
likely. Okay.
sideways.
So you're saying in arousal, if you have a lot of emotions, positive or negative, or things that you haven't really been able to account for, when you hit arousal, they are going to want to be acted upon in some way or expressed.
Yeah, I mean, become reactionary, right?
Mm.
And I think arousal is just an extra catalyst that can be explosive if you haven't dealt with the underlying emotions that you're dealing with.
So tell me, if you are in a more intense emotional space, which usually intense is negative. So let's say you're frustrated or overwhelmed or something like that, and you wake up aroused, what happens then? Like, what is that experience for you, and how do you support yourself in that?
The right way or the wrong way?
Well, hopefully, like the the right way.
I don't know. I don't do a good job at it. So usually, if you're not doing a good job at it, then you reach for your spouse and try to extract that steadiness. You try to steady yourself off of her
Mm.
and her response to your sexual bid. If I realize it enough and understand what's going on, which I'm getting better at, but it usually takes a few of these kind of to go sideways. You go, oh, that didn't happen like I wanted to. And why is that? If I go back and I go, okay, well, because I'm trying to extract something out of her, what am I trying to extract from her? Is it the validation? Is it soothing my other emotions that I haven't dealt with? What is it? I'm going to try back to figure out what I'm trying to steady on and then work back to go work on those things and steady them and can get me back to a place where it's more of a pure intent to connect than it is to deal with an emotion.
Mm.
Or I guess even, fulfill an urge or need.
And in a difficult moment, let's say you're feeling emotional, let's go with frustrated or overwhelmed. And let's say you haven't recognized it yet. It's morning, we're cuddling, and you pursue. And let's say that I say, I'm sorry, I have to run. I've got to dot, dot, dot. I've got a meeting. I've got something. What's a helpful way to really show love for you in that moment?
Yeah, again, I think it's just showing generosity of, and maybe this is hard to do because maybe I reached out for you for the wrong reason. So maybe there's not a generosity to it. So I don't know the answer. I think that just understanding, hey, I appreciate that you desire me
Mm.
and that you want me. And that makes me feel great. It makes me feel like the world, right? Because I know you want to be with me and I appreciate that, but I can't right now.
I want to speak for some spontaneous men right now. I do coach, obviously, a lot of men. And I think one of the most heartbreaking things I hear from their side is, I wish my wife would touch me. I wish my wife would just see me and notice me, would just want to want me. And I understand responsive desire. Obviously, I'm responsive desire. And I understand that it takes a while to get to arousal. But I also think we can do better. I think we can see the generosity that's coming our way from our spontaneous spouses and respond with more generosity, more willingness to lean in, to express, to love.
Or even just, I feel like the other way around, if it's brought to us as saying, hey, I'm struggling to get aroused in this responsive way, that often there's kindness meant and it's not in a judgmental way. And I can't speak for everyone, but I think from our experience, it's like, oh, okay, I understand. How can I help get there? And so it's even just that, like, if you are feeling from a responsive desire, if you're feeling that your spouse is needy and trying to take from you, the worst thing that can happen at that moment is a rejection because it starts the spiral.
Mm.
And if we can just be more honest in that moment, I feel like the times you've come to me and say, this feels needy.
Mhm.
This feels like you're trying to get something from this and not trying to connect as much. Is there something you're dealing with? Why that doesn't sound and feel good at the time
Mhm.
puts me in a place where I can actually respond and say, what is going on? And I can work through that and understand it. And it doesn't cut as deep as a rejection or a disconnection or a running away
Mhm.
or being annoyed or all the other places that can come with responses. And it goes back to the unwillingness for us to be honest. And I think at the time, it's like, I don't want to hurt him, so I'm not
Mhm.
going to say it.
Mhm.
But we're causing way more pain by not being honest in that moment than we would be in honest. Now, husbands, spontaneous spouses, we've got to be willing to hear and listen and respond in a way that's not moping, sadness, whatever those other things is, or blaming or pointing the finger. We got to really stop to say what is really going on and being honest in our own rights.
Mhm.
Well, okay, let me honestly think about what's going on right now.
Mhm.
And I don't think if that happens, it's never failed. It's never been a negative experience.
It would only get negative if you were defensive.
Yeah, I
Which
have
to
to
your
not,
credit, you haven't been.
I used to be, we could never have this conversation before because I was so defensive. And so you got to get out of that defensive mode as a spontaneous person. You've got to be willing to look at yourself and what is it hard about being married to me? What am I doing in this situation? Because it takes two to tango in everything, right?
Mhm.
And we spend so much time blaming the responsive spouse of not looking like us. And if they would just fix their sexuality, then this would go, right? And when we can get out of that mode and say, no, they don't need to fix their sexuality. They're exactly how they need to be. And that, oh, by the way, I'm feeding into this in some way. So what are the things that I can do to be better at this and be more collaborative about that? You got to be in that headspace, because if you're not, then no matter if your spouse says, hey, I sense that this is coming from a needy place, then you're just going to get mad.
Mhm.
You're going to get defensive and you're going to try to stand up for yourself and battle back. I never lost an argument. Very good at that. And so I would fight back. And so we got to humble ourselves to listen. But some pause and truth in the moment would be very helpful.
Mhm.
And I don't know, maybe it's hard for you and maybe not. You can tell me, like, do you know the moment I grab for you if I'm in a place of neediness or not?
Well, if we're talking about the morning, sometimes I'm not so awake in the morning, and so I'm a little slower, not as sharp. So I would have to say in the morning, it probably takes me a little bit longer to discern, like, is this connecting or is this like needy pursuit? So yeah, only because mornings have been harder for me since my thyroid went out, and so I'm a
Yeah.
little sleepier.
And I think that
But
adds to the challenge too, because sometimes your body will respond before you're mentally awakened. So I could have gotten a response back of a positive body response. But remember, there's this crazy crap that goes on with these people next to me, the responsive thing, where they can separate out the desire from the physical reaction of their body, and so their body can be responding in a positive way, and their mind can be responding in a negative way. Which don't ask me how that works because I don't get it, but it does. And
Yeah.
so maybe that is the challenge: is that you could be responding physically in a positive way, and then your mind wakes up and goes, "Oh, this is needy."
Right.
The thing is that I don't feel like very often if all of you've been wrong. Like I don't
Mm,
ever remember you coming back to me. I feel like you're you're reaching out of neediness, and
mm.
I go, "Oh no, I'm just trying to connect." Usually it's like, "Well, let me go figure out," and you're like, "Yeah, you're probably right." But I also feel like it takes a few moments. Like you've you put up with it one, you put up with it twice, then it's like I'm feeling like we're not connecting, and then I start putting the pieces together, but I'm not so sure. And I'm too much of a wimp to actually ask you because it's scary because I don't want the answer. And so it starts this silly dance that we do. And it takes a while for us to finally like, oh shit, this is not what we want. It would just be so much nicer if we could just go, this doesn't feel like it's what we want right at the beginning.
Right. I think on my side, I can feel it, but here's what's difficult. Sometimes you catch yourself. So let's say you come to me and you're like super needy in a short interaction during the day when I'm actually awake. I'm like, oh, that was kind of needy. But then the next time you're not. And so every little interaction I'm not going to call out. But if it's something like, okay, 3 times today, every time you've come to me, I've been like, yeah, this is needy, then I'm going to say something. But I will often at the very first because I'm going to give you some grace to see if you can self correct.
I don't know. Maybe that's good and maybe that's bad. I don't know. Like we need a safe word as far as neediness. Purple grapes. I'm like, oh crap, Crick's being needy. I don't know. Maybe I need better reflection on it as I approach you and interact with you. That I could ask myself, is this out of a neediness or not? I mean, I think I can do a better job of that. But sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I'm not haven't dealt with my shit, and then I go and do it, and then I realize, oh, I didn't intentionally come at you at a needy place, but that felt needy after the fact.
hmm And that's just the part of being human, right? Like sometimes I pull away without even recognizing why I pulled away. And I go, oh, wait, it's because we're about to do the dance. Oh, okay. Right. Like it can be so just automatic.
Yeah, I don't know if it will ever cut out the dance. I think that's humanness, right? It's like trying to be perfect or differentiated all the time as a couple. That's not going to
hmm
happen because of the humanness. And so we got to stop this fantasy of, hey, if we could just stop it before it happens, then this would be great. And realize this is going to happen in a relationship. This is part of a relationship. And the more important part is having grace and curiosity about the other person and caring about them enough to speak up when it gets to a point where you realize that something's not quite right.
hmm And that's so that you can recenter, reconnect, calibrate I like the word attune. We had a lot of violinists, we had a lot of instrumentalists in our kids growing up. I'm piano and it's about tuning, right? It's not that it's broken. It's like let's get this back in tune. And when things are in tune, like two strings in the same tuning, if you pluck one, then the other will vibrate, right? It's like
Mm. Well, try it.
they attune to each other, right? There's synergy there. And so it's more about attunement, not like I'm broken, you're this, you're that. It's like,
Yeah.
can we attune to one
You're not
another?
trying to bring it up so you can point it out and have them fix themselves
Right.
because we both play into the pattern 100%. So
Mm,
there's both on each side for us to think
right.
about how we're playing into the pattern. And I'm going to take this opportunity to tap into talking about this. We've talked about it a lot. I drive my clients absolutely nuts about this, I think. But I think this is what's so important about the daily emotional exercise that we talked about, right? Connecting on an emotional level every day and being honest, being able to share on a daily basis so that we've gotten much better. We couldn't stop the dance. We couldn't stop the spiral until it got so bad that we're like, why are we even in this relationship in the first place if it's going to be this way?
hmm
And I truly believe one of the things that helped us stop the spiral was doing our daily emotional check-in.
hmm
because it taught us to be honest, to recognize our emotions, to share them, to work through and resolve our own emotions when we're listening to our spouse's emotions, which was the hardest thing about me. My tongue bled because I had to shut up and not say anything. And I had to process through those emotions. So when these bigger things happen and we maybe start this dance and we've done a step or two or three, and we realize that we've practiced this emotional centering, this ability to be more honest and truthful with each other and work through it.
Mhm. I think the emotional check-ins, and let me just back up here and say, so the daily emotional check-in is where each of you takes 5 minutes to share your emotional experience for that day, what you were feeling as you were doing all of the things, where you were at emotionally. And while one person is speaking, one spouse is speaking for 5 minutes, the other is just listening. And then vice versa, you swap places. And after the 10 minutes, you're done, unless there's something really important that came up that you want to address at a later time. So I think what it has taught me is to take accountability, because I'm asking myself to look at the day, and there are a lot of emotional experiences I think I would have rather denied. For example, if I was judgy, or if I was irritated, or if I was mm, provoked in some way. If I was anxious, I think I really tried to hide or pretend that I wasn't anxious, and being more honest about, this is where I was judgmental today, and this or I felt judgmental, and here's where I was anxious, and here's where I was overwhelmed, or here's where that anxiety led to overfunctioning. Just being able to be more honest about it. Then when you maybe come to me and say, "Hey babe, I think you're moving into that anxious overfunctioning," I like know that it happens and I have recognized it and can be like, "Oh, yeah." And it's not an attack. It's because I have already accounted for it, meaning like I've
Right.
already acknowledged that is something that I do.
Yeah. I mean, it is along with the daily emotional check ins, I think the understanding that we both play a side.
Mhm.
There's not someone that's right and there's not someone that's wrong.
Mhm.
We're in a relationship. We live and see things in a very different way. And
Mhm.
because we do that, and because we're so different, we're going to be able to do these things and step on each other's toes and maybe respond in a way that's critical and we don't mean to. But instead of us being so worried about that and be so anxious about it and thinking that we needed to make each other the same, it is just understanding that that's normal. In fact, that's where intimacy grows and develops. That if we were exactly the same, we couldn't have intimacy.
Mhm.
It would not be allowed because we are exactly the same. Intimacy is knowing that we're different and accepting those differences
And making room.
and making room for someone else to have a different opinion and
Mhm.
see things differently. When you can do that, that's when true intimacy is born. I suffocated that. I was so dogmatic in all the things that I did that I would suffocate anything like that. And I didn't allow that intimacy to happen in my life. But yeah, I craved it more than anything else. And so it's this
Mhm.
vicious cycle of snuffing the thing out that you crave most because you misunderstand that being different isn't the problem. Thinking it's a problem, it's a problem. And when you realize that that difference is what intimacy, the definition of intimacy is, I'm being close to you, knowing that we're different.
I think another thing that's really helpful in differences is to assume good
Yeah.
intentions. I don't have any couples that wake up and want to like harm each other or intentionally think, okay, today's going to be the day when I like attack my spouse.
Yeah.
I think in general, people are good people. And yes, we have some defense triggers. We have spots where we misunderstand. But if you assume that your spouse is not trying to harm you, that they have good intention, then you can approach a situation much differently. For example, I assume that your spontaneous desire is generous and it is good. And I assume that you are doing the best you can navigating it. And I know that it's not always really easy and that there is some burden to bear. Not burden, I don't like that word. There is some challenge, responsibility to bear in spontaneous desire. And so when you reach for me, the assumption isn't you're trying to harm me. The assumption is you have a good intent.
I don't know if you understand what those words mean. I think every spontaneous person sitting out there today would love to hear those from their responsive spouse. Yes, I F it up and I don't get it right. But ultimately, I love, adore, and desire you in the most healthiest of ways.
Mm-hmm.
But my humanness doesn't allow me to do it right every time. And I think every spontaneous desire would love to know that their spouse believes that their intents are pure. Not that they're perfect, because we're not, but that the intents behind it are pure and they desire the best for you.
I know that.
I think
I love you, babe.
I love you too. I think my takeaway here is that we're human. This is going to happen. Can I get better? Yes. I think I'm going to be more conscious about what these desires are leading to me. I'm not going to try to ignore them or dismiss them because that doesn't work either. I've tried to do that. But at least maybe ask myself the question in the morning when they come, where am I at emotionally? And if I reach for Amy right now, will it be with pure intent or will it be neediness?
Mm.
And I don't think there's any way to ever stop that cycle because, again, we're human and there will be times when we just reach out because we don't know. Like I said, sometimes it takes 3 or 4 times to go, oh, wait, something's not right.
Mm-hmm.
Those last 3 times didn't work out like I thought they should. And then go back and think about it. But maybe I can be a little more intentional and putting a little more thought into how I respond.
I think I can do the same. I do assume your good intent, and I actually do really appreciate the generosity of spontaneous desire. I think there is so much goodness and generosity in it. I know that it's a challenge, but I also am so grateful for the generosity in it. I think the way that you desire to love and cherish and adore and spoil me is quite amazing.
Well, I had no idea this is where it was going to go today. I told you we're bringing you on a journey that we hadn't planned out or understood. We don't do that with any of our podcasts, to be honest with you. It's been the joy of making these podcasts because we just come up with an idea and roll with it. They're never scripted. We have no idea where they're really going to go. And so we've had aha moments. We've had some, oh my goodness moments. I think some good and some bad. And that's been real. But some of these other ones where we really haven't thought through some of the topics we're going to talk about, maybe a little more scattered than others. So hopefully there's some saneness to this podcast and you can get something out of it. But this challenge each of the spouses to stop and think and be more curious about what's going on with the other person and understand where they're coming from. And for us to be more thoughtful around our sexual desires, maybe. And when we have them, put some thought into where am I at emotionally in my head as I pursue these sexual desires. Because for us spontaneous people, they're there all the time, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe it's not possible to always do that, but I am definitely going to try. Maybe we'll report back next week or in 2 weeks how I did at it and see.
I love you, babe.
I love you too. So please go like and subscribe to this podcast. It means everything to us to have you listening. And like we told you before, it's like a therapy session every week for us. So
Welcome to the Langford therapy.
we're gonna keep putting them out there.
No, it's like a
listening.
coaching session.
Maybe you charge too much. I can't afford you. Just kidding. Charge it just right. Comes here. So we appreciate it, and just think that there's hundreds of you out there listening to it. It just makes my heart feel joy. I may watch it a little closer than I probably should, but I appreciate it. So go do the thumbs up, the star, or whatever your podcast listening platform allows you to do. We appreciate that. Helps us when we do that. Keep listening. We're getting close to our 52nd episode, which means 1 year of doing this. I can't believe it's been a year. We're going to have something special come out. So keep listening and be ready for that. And until next time,
keep undressing your intimacy.
Bye-bye.